The problem with balance is that it assumes that every area of your life should receive equal attention at all times. But that's not how life works. A farmer doesn't just spend equal time harvesting and planting and preparing the soil all in the same season. Different seasons require different priorities. This shows up in scripture, it shows up in our lives. So instead of asking ourselves, how do I balance everything? We probably should try asking ourselves, what is God actually asking me to prioritize in this season? We don't just need to say we need better balance. Because have you ever noticed that everyone who's chasing balance never feels balanced, actually, right? Like, once things calm down, I'll finally be balanced. Lie. I'm trying to balance work, family, ministry, health, and life. Lie. But what if balance isn't actually the goal? We're going to do something different today. Actually, this week and next week, we are going to go back in the archives and listen to an old podcast that I did with one of my great friends, Chante Truscott, who is going to talk about the myth of balance. Stay tuned. Welcome to Come Sis With Me, the podcast, real talk, biblical wisdom, and practical tools. I'm your host, Mia Randall, your wellness architect. Each episode is designed to help you align, release, and create a life you actually want to live. Honestly, it's more like my personal journal that I read aloud to my sisters in the world every week. But hey, come for the stories and strategies and stay for the sisterhood. Let's get into it. Welcome back to Come Sis With Me, the podcast. I have an important topic to discuss with us today. We are in the womanhood series. Today, we are talking about being a woman of balance. And being a woman comes with different roles and responsibilities. It's important to find balance in your life so that we don't become overwhelmed. But what does that actually look like in our womanhood? What does that look like in our lives as busy, multifaceted women? It can mean living a life where you have time for yourself, your family, and all the things that you wish to pursue. But it could also mean a lot of different things depending on what your commitments are and what those challenges look like. But what I do know is that it's all doable and that living a balanced life as a woman is possible. And the reason I know this is because my guest today actually exudes this in her life. It's the reason why I chose her to be a guest on this topic. Because when I look at her, when I think about her, when I even, think about overall life and balancing in my own world, this is the sister that I typically turn to and see as a leader in ministry, one who is able to navigate the marketplace with success because she sits as a C-suite exec. She's one of the best moms that I've ever met, and she's an amazing wife. And so when I think about a woman, I know balance is a buzzword in these streets, but when I think about someone who is able to distribute the weight of marriage, family, and work, it's in ministry, because she's also a visionary who's led a very successful women's ministry for 10 plus years. Okay. So when I think about this, in conjunction with still living that out as a covenant woman, having a covenant with God and balancing life, I think about Chante Truscott. So I want to welcome my guest today to the podcast. Chante, welcome to Come Sis With Me. Would you tell the people a little bit about who you are and how you would introduce yourself? Welcome.
Well, first of all, I feel like I've been wanting to get here, right? Like this is the spot to be, right? Come sit with me. So thanks for having me, first of all. But if I was to introduce myself, I would ditto a lot of what you shared. I'm a wife, a mom, God's daughter. I'm a daughter as well. I carry a bunch of leadership roles at work and at church and co-lead my home with my husband. But I think just overall, just someone who I actually like really thrive in all those environments. So I love this topic. I love being able to talk about this in a way that really honors the Lord and is not part of like this hustle culture,
Mm.
but just to be able to help our sisters navigate every aspect of their lives. So thank you for having me. I'm excited. I'm excited.
Yeah, of course. First person I thought about when I was like, ooh, womanhood series. Definitely want to talk about balancing life and all of the different areas that assignments, positions that we have as women or can have as women. And of course, I thought about you because look, you're already giving me words that I think we need to include in the podcast. Hustle culture is now on my podcast list of topics that we're going to put in here. But when you think about balance, and when you talk about balance in terms of your life, how would you define it? Like, I know how Webster defines balance. So how does Chante define balance?
Well, sometimes when I hear this word, I'm like, what is that? What's balance? But I really think about it
Exactly.
more from the aspect of like synergy. Because when I think about balance, I think about
Mm,
like thinking about all the things that we're responsible for. And I think about like the cartoon where they have like the plates in both of the hands, and then they have their leg up, and then they have a plate on that, and then they have a teacup on top of that, and then they have a plate on top of that, and then they have a fork on top of that, and they have a spoon, and that sounds overwhelming. So I really like to think about
yeah.
balance in synergy together, where it's like a mutual coming
Mm,
together of the things that I'm responsible for. So I don't feel overwhelmed when I hear like balance. And I'm clumsy too. So when I hear the word balance, I'm like, oh, wait a minute. Make sure I don't drop all of that stuff. I think more
that's not
about
me.
synergy, about kind of bringing all those pieces together in a way that honors each one of them, and really being mindful of like
Yeah.
different things in different seasons require different parts of who I am. So being able to like lean into those from a synergistic
Mm,
standpoint in my life, right? Because sometimes, like my husband coaches basketball, so during basketball season, I'm like cheerleader wife, and not just traditional wife. And then at
mm.
work, I can have really busy seasons at work, and then my daughter is well, our daughters are have different things going on, so they require different things. But to be able to build synergy is what really creates the balance in my life, I would say.
Yeah. That's good. Synergy is not even a word that's used in the definition, but I'm going to give you the definition because you know I like definitions. But it does talk about an even distribution of weight, and that it enables someone or something to remain upright and steady. So you can think about like synonyms are stability, equilibrium, steadiness, footing, and that's exactly what you just explained. That any instability does not equate to balance for you. Like
Right,
it's not
right,
about everything being leveled, but it's really about like keeping things in tension and tandem with one another. Another
yeah, yeah,
definition was a condition in which different elements are equal or in the correct proportions. And you actually
yes,
just gave like a small little piece of that when you talked about depending on what season you're in life, right? That's what what to emphasize, right? Like if it's basketball
right,
season, being a wife of a basketball coach, I know being a wife of a basketball player is one thing, but being a
yes.
coach is a completely different ball game, and it requires a level of proportions that are different, elements that depending on what season you're in. So that's actually perfect. It's a perfect segue into kind of why I brought you on, because I think we know as women that there are going to be requirements that we have to balance in life, right? But how to balance them is where we fall short.
Okay, so for me, I think it's like an umbrella, basically. That there are certain things that, like, if I'm not strategically like addressing certain things
Mm.
where I need to build balance, then everything under the umbrella is getting wet. So it's like, oh, your umbrella has holes in it because you didn't balance where you needed to, and then everything
Mm.
underneath got wet because as I mentioned before, like some things you have to lean into more in different seasons. And so the thing I always have to lean into first, right, is my relationship with the Lord. Because the minute I don't prioritize that, nothing else is balanced. Like it really is like I'm like a chicken with my head cut off. And I will, when I get out of balance, I have to think about, have you been honoring your relationship with the Lord? Have you been honoring your time with God first? And first doesn't necessarily mean first thing in the morning, because sometimes my life doesn't like add up that way, or it's not set up that way, but that I am honoring that commitment to God in a way that I need to for the season. Like for example, before I had my daughter and my husband was still playing basketball overseas, I had like unlimited time with the Lord. I'd be laying out with the Lord for hours and it was just glorious. And then he retired, right? And we moved back to the States and I got a job. And it was like, oh, okay, how do I figure this out? And then we moved again, and then we had my daughter. And our oldest daughter came to live with us. So it was like, okay, how do I set up my relationship with the Lord in a way that makes sense for this season? So I'm not like, okay, don't bother me because I'm with Jesus. Well, I have a newborn, so that probably wasn't going to happen that way. So being able to really adjust. So sometimes that looks like when I sit down at my desk to work, that I have my time of prayer or that I'm listening to the Bible instead of being able to open it. Or when I'm working out, that instead of listening to ratchet music, I listen to the Bible being read or worship music, which is hard because I love to listen to ratchet music while
I
I
was
work.
going to say during workouts.
Right. That's how I also keep balance as well. Right. I get all that out. Okay. The next thing is then my relationship with my husband. Right. Because according to the Bible, like that's the order that we follow. It's God first, then a spouse. And that looks different in different seasons. As I mentioned before, he's a basketball coach. So some of how I pour into my relationship with him is being present at basketball games. Because Lord knows a girl be tired, right? Like I finish working, I go pick my baby up from school. She's tired too, but we're there to support him as a family. Because during basketball season, a lot of times we don't even get date night. And so it's being able to balance like outside of basketball season, right? It's all about us and we can do all these things, do all these things. And during basketball season, it's about supporting him because there's not a lot of free time unless, we're at home and then our little one is in the bed. And the next is as a mother, right? Like being able to, we have a grown child and then we have a 5-year-old and they need different things at this time. And our oldest daughter is also a wife. So being able to really be an example for her of what balance looks like in your career. And then also being present for our little one. Like she is in kindergarten, so she's in grade school. And it's important for us to be there for presentations and for different parties at school because that's important to her. So those are the layers for me that start my umbrella. It's God, my spouse, and my kids. And so then everything else kind of comes under that umbrella because if I don't take care of those things, then everything else under the umbrella is going to be out of whack for me. Ecclesiastes 3 and Ecclesiastes 3, 1 through 11 talks about there's a time and a season for every activity under the sun. And that is really important that we lean into that. Like even the earth shows us that in the different seasons. There's a summer, a winter, a spring, and a fall, and different things happen in those seasons. Like things aren't growing typically in the winter because it's time for the earth to rest and renew. Like animals go and hibernate. And so you have to know the times and seasons in your life, but some things are consistent. And that's for me is the umbrella, and then everything else kind of falls under that. Then work comes next, right? Because we have to live and we need to buy food and pay bills and all those things. And then church falls under that because those are leaders. And then I need time with my friends as well and time with our extended family. So it's really being strategic of like, I probably can't go on a girls trip during basketball season because that's how I build balance in my relationship. Or if my daughter has a gymnastics recital, I probably can't go and go on a family vacation or something like that, being mindful of what I have in front of me and what makes sense. We were talking about before we started tonight, like it's spring break next week. And I'm going to take time off from work to be on spring break with my daughter. My husband is doing the same thing so that we can really nurture our family so that does not get out of balance with us putting other things before her. So it's systems, I would say, is very, very important, but you have to know what's important to you first before you can really like balance and build that synergy.
Yeah. I have like 15 questions, but I'm going to stay on track here. because I heard making obedience to God your number one priority, but I immediately thought about, and I don't know why this came up, but I thought about the word sacrifice and remembering like Saul. You know, Saul when he was sent to conquer the Amalekites in First Samuel, and he said like his thought process was, I'm gonna go and conquer these things and bring back some of the booty, I guess is what you
Yes.
call it, like the
The
leftovers, and
spoils
I'm
of
gonna
war.
sacrifice them to God.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the spoils of war, and I'm gonna sacrifice them to God because I think this is a good idea, right? Like to me, the balance in this is I'm gonna conquer and then I'm gonna sacrifice to God because he thought that was big, like being obedient, and that was the number one priority. I have no idea why I'm going here, but um all I kept hearing was, how do you know? Like, where does the word sacrifice in regards to balance come into place when you talk about like this umbrella? Like, how do you know what's good, what's bad, what's right, what's wrong when it comes to sacrificing, or maybe not maybe that's not a good word, but when you're balancing the home, the work, the family, all of those different aspects.
Yeah, so that's important. I think that's a good word because the Bible also says that obedience is better than sacrifice because we focus on like what we're giving up
Mm,
instead of like what the Lord told us to do. Like we're quick to be like, oh, I'm gonna give this up or I'm not gonna do this, and God is like, did you do what I told you to do though? Which is basically what Saul didn't do, right? He said kill everything, and so I was like, okay, Lord, I'm gonna bring you this stuff. But I think for me, it's about I can't sacrifice the things that only I can do, right? There's some things that only I
mm,
can do for my family. So there are the things that I sacrifice are the things that I can outsource. So cooking it's
mm,
sometimes a thing that I outsource. Like we order food because if I think about, okay, if I'm going to cook, I need to have prepared, well in advance. And our lives sometimes are not set up like that,
that's
or I
real.
forget, right? So outsourcing, that's important because I can't sacrifice time with my husband because that's only something I can do. I can't sacrifice things with my kids because those are things that only I can do. Those are things that they need from me, but there are things that I can sacrifice at work. Like I can sacrifice, maybe I don't need to be on every single phone call. We work at a remote organization, so I'm not physically in an office. But
Mhm.
maybe there are phone calls that I need to prepare my team to be on in my place and build their capacity. So while it's something that I'm not doing, and so I'm sacrificing my presence being there, but it's not a lack of quality because I
Yeah.
prepared somebody else to do it in my place. The same thing at church, right? Like I lead a team at church, I'm on the ministry team at church. And at one point, I was serving every single Sunday in my area, which is our digital ministry. And I'm like, this not gonna work, right? Because that means that I could never sit down
Uh,
and worship with my husband. I was back there every week. So I needed to build a
mm,
team, to build capacity. So while my presence is what I sacrifice back there, I'm not sacrificing being able to sit down and worship with my husband because the little girl goes to children's church. But being able to sit down and worship with my husband because that's not something that somebody else can do. So where the other sacrifices come in
yeah.
is like sometimes I miss out on things with my friends because my life is so busy
Mm,
that I need to make sure that I'm setting aside time for my umbrella. And then I fit in the other things under that. So maybe they are going to go do something that I really want to go do, but I haven't spent time with my husband or haven't had a date in months, right? Because of like how our lives are. So am I going on the
mm,
date
yeah.
or am I going on the girls trip? Am I um,
Yeah.
going to a church event or am I just going to hang out with my daughter at Chuck E. Cheese? Am I, going to watch a show with my husband or jump on a Zoom call to, being able to balance like what I really value in the season and
Yeah.
where I need to lean in because I'm not giving up on any of those things. So my
Yeah.
homegirls know like Shantae's gonna miss this trip, but I'm still present in our friendships. Like that group text is what keeps us going for a
Yeah.
while until we can spend time together because I do need that time
Yeah.
too, or with my sister, right? Like sometimes I'm not the one that can go visit her.
Mm,
She has to come visit me, right? Because the time that I take to go visit is
mm,
time that I could be leveraging for something else. So come on, you come visit me because people know how my life
mm,
is set up. So it's important that you also have
Yeah.
people around you who understand the systems that you have in place. Because otherwise, like, people can feel some kind of way. But I'm very open and transparent about, look, this is my life. And so let's take advantage of these times that we have together, because I tell my husband all the time, there's no such thing as
Yeah.
free time. Not really, because that's time that you could be like doing something else. And the doing something else could be doing nothing, but it's still time, right? That you're sacrificing.
Right.
There's really no like free time.
Mm.
And so people are like, are you free? No, but I can make myself available because I'm never truly, truly free.
Free. Yeah. I'll be doing something with this time. I don't know
Yeah.
what it is,
Yeah.
but that brings me to kind of a great um thought on, and this is something that I shared with you. I want to say it's like a couple weeks ago, and we were talking about a personal experience with just a diagnosis that I received
Mhm.
with ADHD and autism, and just helping me, and that kind of helped me walk out this personal thought about um, did I lack faith, or am I lacking reliance on God by not really understanding or putting this diagnosis in place. And you were like, no, I think it helps you give a better understanding of how God fashioned me. Those are the words you
Mhm.
used, fashioned me. You're so cute, like, in your language. Um, that's how God fashioned you. And I'm like, yeah, that's exactly how God fashioned me. Right. But it allowed me to hold these two things, these two thought processes in tension, in proportion with one another. And one of them was how I do need to be very strategic with my time, because with this diagnosis, at times I can lose perspective of time. I'm very
Mhm.
time blind on certain things. And one of your suggestions was, why don't you think about time blocking? And we'll get into sisterhood, we'll get into Deborah's Den and all those things, because I do want you to share about that. But I was in this cohort that you led with Jennifer, and we talked about the importance of building systems, and specifically that time blocking. That has been monumental in setting up my life,
Yeah.
setting up my work life, home life, wife life balance. But my question to you is, so I'm pulling all those things together. My question to you is, how do you do all of those things, right? Navigating the pitfalls of the words like sacrifice, abandon, postpone in relation to balance, when those things can sometimes have double meanings, right? Like we talked about the double meaning of sacrifice. Yeah, it may sound good, but it may not always be God, right? Like,
Mhm.
how do you navigate that? Like words like abandon. Sometimes I can't go out on trips with my girls, because date night is more important, or I have to postpone things like um a night out with your daughter versus a Zoom meeting or a business meeting or even a leadership meeting in ministry,
Right.
because at that moment it may be what's most important.
Yeah, so that's where the synergy comes in, because people laugh all the time because people call my daughter like the church baby, because she is there with us all the time, because that's where, like, right, I'm bringing two things that are mutually important together. So sometimes if we have a
Mm,
leadership meeting after church, I ask her, right, do you want to stay with us, or do you want to go with my mom, like go with
mm,
Nana and go home? And sometimes she wants to stay and sometimes she doesn't. And I tell people, like, if we get involved in things, I'll be like, okay, well, my daughter probably is coming. And so if that's not okay, let me know. And if it's not okay,
yeah.
then I don't participate, because I'm not willing to make her feel like
Mm,
she's second to anything. So she gets a choice, right? Because both of her parents are in this
mm,
leadership, on this leadership team. And so a lot of times she's there. She has her little tablet. She's eating the snacks. She participates in the conversation. She participates in the conversation sometimes, because again, like, no time is free. So if she can't be a part of
yeah.
those like extra things, because me serving in church and my husband serving in church is technically an extra. And while the Lord has called us to certain things, us
Mm,
honoring our relationship with the Lord that's the requirement. That's what God requires of us. But the
mm,
Lord although we present ourselves as a living sacrifice, us serving on the leadership team at church is not a
Yeah.
requirement. It's something that we have decided to give God our yes in. And at any point that encroaches on how she is being parented by us, that would be something we would have to discuss and
Yeah.
potentially strategically abandon for a season. And me saying that, like,
Yeah.
that sometimes that might have to get put to the side for a season doesn't mean forever, because she won't be a little child forever.
Yeah.
And there may be a time where if we ever did have to take a step back, we could always return to that, or one of us, or something like that. But that's where the synergy comes in. She's going to those meetings a lot of times. Or if I'm on a Zoom call, I'll be like, my
Yeah.
daughter's here. And me and I talked about that before. Like, if she comes home, she might bring her little self in here. And I set those things up
And
so
she's
people have
welcome.
that expectation that she's going to be around. When I returned back to
Yeah.
ministry after I had her, she was there and crawled right on up, and I just picked her up. Like, that's what my life looks like. And I think that was
Yeah.
the greatest picture of trying to build synergy in my life. And I'm grateful for friends
Mhm.
who really understand my portion,
Mm.
because in this particular season of my life, they are coming to me more than I am going to them. But it won't always be this way, and it hasn't always
Yeah.
been this way. And so I'm grateful that we are able to
Yeah.
navigate different seasons. And the same thing with my husband, right? Like, there are lots of things that we do together. Sometimes he goes on a recruiting trip. I haven't done this as much recently, but he will go on a recruiting trip and I'll go, right?
Yeah.
To build that capacity and to build that synergy, because there are some
Yeah.
things that can, like I said, that cannot be abandoned and cannot be put to the side. But the things that can, like, I lean into that and I don't feel guilty about doing it. I used to.
Yeah.
And that became overwhelming,
Mm.
trying to give 100% in every area at the same time
Yeah.
automatically leaves you in the negative. Because sometimes, right, like, I can give
Mm.
20% here, and my 20% is enough. And because over here I need to give 70%, and over here I need to give 10%. But
Yeah.
that's where that balance comes in, because it's not all things are equal at the same time. Like, no, that's not possible
Ooh.
or sustainable.
Yes. Yeah. I my subheading on the, like, kind of the next topic is called the balancing act, and it's about maintaining, like, a proper perspective. And literally what you just explained was one of the examples that I read in this book. Coincidentally, it's a book about Deborah, which we'll get into why that's funny to me and Chante. But it gave a skiing reference. Like, I don't know if you ever been skiing. I mean, we're black. I don't know if a lot of black people
My
go
cousin
skiing,
be
but
going, and I'm like,
do you go
what?
skiing? You live in Texas too, so
Like,
you lived in Nebraska though. They got snow.
snow and
So
corn, but
anyway,
no
it
skiing.
gave a yeah, it gave a skiing reference, and it talked about how the safest way to ski is to alternate weight back and forth between the left and the right foot, because shifting pressure from one to the other at times is how you stay upright. Like,
Yes.
there's never, almost never, a time in skiing where your weight is equally distributed between both left and right foot. And I was like, oh my gosh, that just put so many things into perspective, that everything is not going to cannot get 100% Mia all the time. In
Right.
fact, most almost everything in life is never going to get 100% Mia. Like, the
Right.
Lord, and then after that, everything else just kind of shuffles through.
Right.
Like, and that was the beauty of the time blocking. It was like, okay, 12 to 2 work. Okay,
Yeah.
7 to 8, like 6 o'clock at night to 8 o'clock at night is Scooty. Like, that's my
Yeah.
husband. You don't get any of that time unless we're together. Like, he's like, oh, if he wants to have friends over, cool, we'll have people over, but I still need to be with him. Like, that's our time.
Hmm.
And then after that is me. So
Yeah.
I love that you said that, because when we talk about sometimes postponing or abandoning or sacrificing these things, we immediately see it as negatives, right? Or
Hmm.
bad, or something that is just, oh, this can't be of God. So my question to you is, how do you choose God's will over what seems good?
Yeah, so I think it's defining two different things, right? Because the Lord will
Mm.
call me or command us to do things that stretch us. Like one of my favorite scriptures is, "It was good that I was
Mm.
afflicted so that I could learn your decrees." So it's the stretching. But if it's something that is going to break me, that's not the Lord, because He wouldn't do that, right? Like that's
Mm.
not His way, that's not His character. And so the
Right.
breaking looks different, right? It could be like mentally, right? Like my mind cannot take anymore, or emotionally. But God will call me to do things that stretch me and push me outside of my comfort zone. So it's really being
Yeah.
mindful and being self aware to say, like, is this a pain from stretching, or is this a pain from breaking?
Mm.
And it's similar to how you think about like the body, right? Like
Yeah.
sometimes if you're working out and you realize, oh, I didn't stretch, and you might like something might get pulled because you didn't stretch. So like God will call
You
us,
know that.
to things
Yeah.
if we don't prepare properly, and then the stretching, something gets pulled. But that's a very like easy injury to repair. But if it's like, oh, I'm
Mhm.
looking around and I done fell down the stairs and broke my leg, that's different, because I'm carrying too many things in my hand. And the other way that I do is like ensuring I'm not taking
Mm.
on false responsibility, where I think all these things are riding on me, or
Mm.
all these outcomes are riding on my yes. Like, no, they're not. Like, honestly, most of what we get so worked up about, like, is somebody gonna die? Or is somebody like something detrimental going to happen if you are not there? Typically that
Yeah.
answer is no, right? And it's literally, you know, one of the things I heard at a leadership conference that was so like impactful for me is, even as it relates to how I prioritize time with my husband and my kids, is that sometimes we also have to like teach them that life is not going to always have someone available to you. And not that I'm like abandoning my kids or my husband, but if it's like you have gymnastics every single week, and one of those weeks, maybe I have a meeting, it's okay for me to go to that meeting, because you're going to have
Yeah.
gymnastics next week, to help teach
Yeah.
specifically your kids that life is not always about someone like at your beck and call. And you do it when it's age appropriate, right? Like you can't tell your 2-year old that. That's irresponsible and wrong. But as your
I'm
children
not
go
feeding you
older,
dinner tonight 'cause
right, you're not eating tonight,
yeah.
so you can learn what it means for mommy to sacrifice. No. But to be able to teach as your children get older that there are trade-offs, but it's a conversation that you have with your kids when they can
Yeah.
understand. Like when they're little, they can't understand that. But as your children get older, you can start
Mm.
having those conversations. But again, you lean into seasons, right? So no, you can't do that when your baby is a
Yeah.
newborn. You need to take care of your child. But as your child matures and they're going through grade
Right.
school and they have extracurricular activities, they have things that they are interested in, you can start having conversations with them about things that you are interested in. And why that might require some of your
Yeah.
time. Mia, you had said something earlier about like God, your husband, and yourself. That's the other part. Like you also have to be able, you can't keep giving to people and you never give yourself to yourself. So creating that
Yeah.
capacity, because sometimes like,
Mhm.
okay, well, you're gonna go and practice. I'm gonna go over here and read a book. Like you have gymnastics. Sometimes I'm gonna
And read
take
a
a phone
book.
call while I'm at gymnastics, because that's not stopping you and I'm
Yeah.
still watching you. But being able to communicate that
Right.
is really important. So if it's stretching me,
Mm.
I know that's the Lord. But if it's something that's about to break me, and also I want to give a caveat here, because sometimes you need to be broken of things that keep you from being who God says you are.
Yeah.
But just being discerning, and I know that's like a buzzword as well, but that's why you need your umbrella. So you can be sensitive to the voice of God and really know, like, Lord, is this you pushing
Yeah.
me? Or is this me pushing myself over the edge in a way that's not healthy?
Yeah. Yeah. It's not a surprise that you have kids, a husband, a job, a whole, femininity or lifestyle of womanhood that we have to navigate. Like that's not a surprise to God. And so
Right.
using the wisdom to navigate those things is important because he knew that we were going to have all of these things, right? You you said something earlier about hustle culture though, and how easily those things can get intertwined. Because you're like, you can essentially, I'm hearing like we can do all the things. The problem is should you do all the things? Right.
Right.
Do you want to do all the things? And then where does God end and you begin, or vice versa, in all the things? Right? How do I not get my term, my thought, the world's view of balancing confused with essentially what it should be in my life? Because you're saying some things that I think are going to absolutely resonate with many of the women who are listening, but not every woman has the same callings or assignments or positionings as you, right? So
Right.
practically, just overall, like generically, how do you know when you're doing this? How do you navigate God's will with your natural assignments and your positions of life, right? Overall, like on a generic scale, not just from Chante, but like if you had to just wisdom wise share it with a generic blank template. Can you do that? Maybe I'm asking something you can't even do, but
Yeah, so
what do you think?
I think it's it you really already said it, right? Like I think there's this like this lie we have been sold that we can have it all. Um
Mm,
because it's this
mm,
piece that people are leaving out of like you can have it all, but not all at the same time. Because that's not realistic. Because how would that
yeah.
happen? Well, if you think about like, okay, I want to be this boss, whatever, in whatever capacity, whether that's an
Mm,
entrepreneur or, working on someone else's
yeah.
payroll. But also at the same time, you're like, I also want to go and grow myself in education or develop myself in this way. That's going to be challenging to
Yeah.
navigate unless you have a really flexible schedule that allows for that. So it's really about what is most important for me to have in this season to be who God says that I am. Because this whole idea of like
Mm,
team no sleep is so annoying. First of all, your brain literally needs rest. So if you are not ever
I don't
resting,
know.
like who came up with this? That's why I'm like that whole hustle culture. And I'm not mad at like us wanting to
Yeah.
generate and create generational wealth for our families. I am 100% for that.
Yeah.
But also like in
I
a
knew
way
you
that is healthy. So if your health is failing, and health is holistic for me. It's your spiritual, mental, emotional,
Yeah.
physical, and financial health. So if your health is failing, that's probably a good sign that that's not it, right? Because the Lord has
Yeah.
given us our lives to steward whatever your roles or hats that you wear. Like it's literally like, hey, your life is really mine because you're not your own, but I'm going to trust you to
Right.
steward this or manage it well. Okay. And so your job is to manage it in a way
Mm,
that is honoring to me. So if you are abusing
yeah.
yourself in order to try to achieve something, whatever that is, right? Because culture has told us lots of things that you got to drink your water, be super fine, work out, be the all this, right? And we then start abusing ourselves in order to achieve these unrealistic
Yeah.
standards that we've set for ourselves because the Lord will give us the desires of our heart if we honor him. Like, is what you're
Hmm.
desiring really aligned to what God has called you to?
Yeah.
Or what you see somebody else with. Because like I'm like, okay, the girlies are out here doing
Ooh.
this and they're doing that and they're looking flawless. And I'm like, in my available time, I'm on the couch watching
Their
Netflix,
waists are
eating an ice
gone.
cream bar.
Where's their waist?
Right. What waste? What waste? Meanwhile,
Yeah.
they haven't told you they didn't have surgery to suck the
Where's
fat.
their waist at?
Suck it out,
Oh,
right? That could be something if working out is not it. Like, hey, I'm not
if
mad
you
at
can
that.
pay for it.
Yeah, but in my available time, I'm watching
If
Netflix with
your
my
husband
husband
says
and
yes,
eating a
mine won't say yes.
Mine won't either, girl. He's like, no elective surgery. But like, is that the standard that the Lord has
Go get
really?
that. Go get to that gym.
Is that the standard the Lord has set for you? Because if it's not, then
Right.
cast it down. Cast it down and stop stressing yourself out trying to achieve something that really
Hmm.
is not even meant for you to achieve. Because if the Lord has given us our lives to steward, it's because
Yeah.
that's our ministry as well. So however we're stewarding that should
Yeah.
be drawing more people closer to him. End of story. Only what you do for Christ will last. That probably sum
Mm.
up this whole thing. Right. So if that is not what you're
Yeah.
achieving, if it's
Some of the
taking
whole.
you taking you away from the Lord, or if it's Again, if you don't have your umbrella in place, nothing under there matters at all. At all.
If today's conversation resonated with you, share it with a sister, follow the podcast, and leave a review if this space has been meaningful to you. Or if you want to share your story and help shape our sisterhood, go to the wellness-architect.com/podcast and click on share your testimony. We would be honored to hold space for your voice. Thank you for coming for the stories and strategies and staying for the sisterhood. Until next time, sis, be well. Is this thing on?